Hi, everybody. I'm Jordan Ostroff with LegalEase Marketing, and this is Exhibit A Attorneys, where we interview attorneys and other experts around the country to talk about what it truly takes to be the Exhibit A of a successful attorney. Joining me today is Sharon Ve. Sharon comes to us from South Florida. She's otherwise known as the Inspired Attorney. She's a trained attorney who transitioned her career to help her peers as a business and life strategist. Her mission is to change the way most lawyers practice so that we can practice from a place of passion and joy, which can only flow on to those we serve and ultimately make a positive impact on the world. With her podcast, The Inspired Attorney, she interviews inspirational attorneys about their lives, practices, and learnings so that we can all gain inspiration and ultimately use their advice to create positive change in our lives. Which means today, of course, we are going to talk about how you bill as many hours as possible as a business law attorney. That is the topic. No, just kidding. We are talking about rediscovering your passions and creating a life you love. And this week, today, not only do I have Sharon joining me, but we have Lane Crawford, our director of words. For those of you who've been watching the show, Lane was on, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. Time has no meaning anymore.
A month ago. Yeah.
There we go, a month ago. Lane talked to us about copywriting. And so we wanted to make sure that we had Lane on this one as well to talk about how you get some of that passion and life that you love into the copy, into your brand voice, into your tone, into all these things. So if you want to connect more with Sharon after this, we're going to drop a LinkedIn link. That's linkedin.com/in/Sharon Ve, facebook.com/the inspired attorney, instagram.com/Sharon_V_, a YouTube link, which I am not going to read out. You're going to have to watch for that one. And a QD scheduler if you want to book a strategy session with Sharon that I'm also not going to read out. You'll have to watch for those links, or maybe they'll be in the show notes. Before we get into that, I want to talk about our last episode. We had Chelsea Williams on talking about understanding your money, mastering your law firm's finances. That aired a while ago because we have been off for a week. Those intervening times, we've given you not one, but two other videos to check out. We have How to Add the Missing Pieces to Your Marketing Puzzle by yours truly. And then if you're sick of the sound of my own voice, as much as I am, you can listen to Greg Eisenberg talk about 3 ways to track your leads and maximize ROI. Greg goes into UTM codes, call rail, and some other great things to make sure that you're getting the best bang for your buck for your marketing efforts. But enough about all that, because I want to talk to Sharon. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm pumped to be here.
Yeah, what I miss in your bio?
Well, if anybody wants to know where I got my undergrad degree or where I studied law, I went to UCF in Central Florida.
Nice. Charge on.
Yeah, go nice. I studied law at St. Thomas University, and I got my MBA from European Business School in Munich, Germany. So those are the little degrees that give me credibility.
There we go. I competed when I was at Barry against St. Thomas's trial team a number of times.
Well, so, I'm sorry for you.
We won some, lost some. They were good teams.
Good.
So, and very, very good people. So I will give them the utmost credit along those lines. So we're talking about rediscovering your passion and creating a life that you love. I think I want to start with this. How do you find your passion? Like, other than watching the movie Soul and executing on that, how can we find our passions?
So finding your passion is more like a self-discovery process. Sometimes what I do with my clients is we do different exercises, and sometimes it's easier to find what you like to do by knowing what you don't like to do. So one of the things that I walk through with my clients is an exercise based on Vishen Lakhiani's Your 3 Most Important Questions, which basically, if you guys want to walk through it, we can do it, but it's
let's do it.
3 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. So it takes about 3 minutes. So what I'd like everyone to do, if you have a piece of paper, you're going to make 3 quadrants. And then on your left quadrant, you're going to write experiences.
All right.
In the middle, you're going to write grow.
All right.
And the last far right one, you're going to write contribute. And I'm going to set a timer so we can do this on the fly.
All right.
All right. So the first question we're going to ask, and we're going to take 1 minute, love it.
It's not
You're going to have to write really small, like.
It's all right. There's not a lot going on in here, so it's fine.
Okay. So one of the great questions to ask is, at the end of your days, on your last day, what do you hope to have experienced in this life? Like, what kind of life would you have liked to live? I'm going to set the timer. You have 1 minute to write that down.
All right. So everybody who's with us for 1 minute, we're going to get some dead time and go through our experiences. So sitting on your deathbed, I'm losing time right now already. What do you want to make sure that you've experienced?
Yeah. What do you want to have experienced even now? Like, what do you want to have experienced in your life that you know you've lived a full and happy life? That you know you've made it, you did everything that you wanted to do. And these are gut things. So you don't have to think too hard about it. You know these things. If it comes up, write it down. Got about 10 seconds left.
I'm out of things. I went too
That's
broad.
fine.
I didn't go specific enough. Or I've lived a good life so far. We'll see.
There's no wrong way to do this exercise. Okay. So we got our middle one going. I mean, we got our experiences down. Now, the next question is, who do you have to become and how do you have to grow to become that person who can achieve those experiences? You have 1 minute. So say, for example, an experience is you want to run a marathon, you need to become a runner.
I ran a marathon. Highly suggest don't do it.
It's also not my thing, but some people love it, and that's what makes this world beautiful.
A half marathon is 1,000 times better than a full marathon. Don't ever let anybody tell you differently.
Okay, I will admit it was a half, but still that fit my quota, and it was awesome. I enjoyed myself. So who do you have to grow to, and who do you have to become to experience these things in your life? Those things that you hope to accomplish. I have another 13 seconds to go.
And should these line up, like I want this, that needs this, or is there no real correlation?
I mean, they can have a correlation, but if it comes to you and it doesn't have a correlation, put that in there too.
Okay.
All right. So we got our first two quadrants filled out. So we're going to go on to the last question. I'm going to ask the question, then I'm going to hit the timer. So how does living your best life contribute to the world, and how can you contribute to the overall good of society by accomplishing those experiences in your life and growing to be that person? So how does this, I set the timer. So how does this affect the world? Like, whose life is improved by that? It could be someone simple as, one of mine is the people that I encounter in my daily life through the places that I go. So it's whatever it is, your family is living better lives. Just whatever comes to your mind.
I love this. This has been an exciting first 10 minutes. There's going to be a bunch of people running on it during this, listening to it as a podcast, who are like, shit, I can't stop and write this.
Well, that's okay. You can always come back and listen to the replay and do it again.
They're never going to come back to it.
You never know.
That's true.
First time for everything. So 3
seconds. Prove me wrong, listeners.
Yeah, guys.
Prove me wrong.
Okay. So that was the exercise. You have your 3 most important questions. So what I love about this, and like I said, I can't take credit for this. This is Vishen Lakhiani's exercise, but I do integrate it into my program and my work with my clients, because this really kind of puts things into perspective for us. It's just like, at the end of the day, like, sometimes we compare ourselves to what other people want, but what do you really want from your life? And so this kind of puts things into perspective for you. And now what you should do is wait a week and come back to these questions and do them again. And also with your questions, I have mine hanging. If you have a team, you guys can put it in your office so everybody can see, so you can see how you align in different things and how you can support one another. But it's also important to have it up so you're reminded, because so often life kind of hits overdrive and we just get in the motion and we can get pulled out of it. So it's good to be like coming back to you, experiences, who I'm becoming, and how I'm contributing.
And Breezy, do me a favor, set a note for us for next Thursday's show with Aaron Thomas, where we'll start off, we'll do a throwback when we talk about Sharon's episode.
Awesome.
To do this.
Yeah. And I'd love for the listeners to, let me know on, the different social links, or drop me an email how it went for you guys, because I think this is a really powerful exercise, and I'd love to hear how it helped you, or what your experience was of it, good or bad, whatever it is. Feedback is feedback.
There's definitively been way worse ways I've spent 3 minutes than doing this. Lane, anything you want to share from what we just did?
No, I thought we were gonna share our what we put down. I thought we were
gonna,
Yeah, do you want to? Okay. So what I said was for experience, I said to become a mentor or a thought leader, and how I would grow for that is to stop feeling like an imposter. I know that with a lot of folks, imposter syndrome can be real, and I know that that's something that I struggle with immensely. And then what I said for contribute was to help with younger generations, especially that's going towards what I said about, the growth of, becoming a mentor and, a thought leader, just to help with folks that are, a little bit younger than me.
That's beautiful. If I can add something, I actually did a video on this a couple weeks ago on imposter syndrome, and it's something that affects every single one of us. And the thing is that at some point, the thing people say, fake it till you make it. Well, you have to, you have to be that person you're becoming. It's you have to start being that person that you're becoming, and you can't doubt yourself on all of that, because nobody who ever made it and made any impact on this world never felt that way. We all have that.
It's I've been watching the Paul McCartney 3-2-1 on Hulu. It's absolutely excellent if you're into music, even if you're not. And even someone as massive as a rock star and icon as Paul McCartney has suffered from imposter syndrome. It's it's really difficult just to try to strip that away from yourself. It's definitely hard. It's a work in progress.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being vulnerable.
Yeah. And I think it's amazing to me, what you just said, so you've got millions of people out there man, I wish I could play the guitar as well as Paul McCartney. And then Paul's like, man, I wish I could be as good as Eric Clapton. And you just,
he's
you just
a bass
keep going.
player. So Paul's a bass player at first.
Oh, my apologies. So then I don't think he's sitting there thinking, I wish I could be as good as Flea.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so I don't know, it's an interesting concept. And because really, I think what separates people is not even how good you are, but how much you power through those negative feelings and still get things done.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is a powering through, but also many of us were taught from an early age to kind of push our emotions down, and that our feelings don't matter and you need to toughen up. But our feelings are, the older I get and the more I learn about myself and just my own evolution, our feelings are our guidance system. They are like little warning signs that tell us that something's up. So if you're having a certain emotional response to something, and all of us have physical emotional responses, it's important to take note of what's going on and get curious. So, hey, am I feeling nervous about this? What about this makes me feel nervous? And kind of explore those, get curious, because only if you get curious, you can deal with it and you can create responses, or you can change the way you behave and overcome these things.
Makes total sense. And I love the idea, at least from this experience, coming back to in a week, seeing what changes, seeing if you still have the same feelings. Where do we go from there? We come back in a week, let's say we still like the same stuff, how do we start putting together that plan to actually implement those things into our life?
So this is where we do what I like to call your superpower analysis. And what you do is you basically, it's kind of like a SWOT analysis, but since many attorneys probably don't know what a SWOT analysis is, it's a very simple business tool to kind of gauge where you're at. So you have what I like to call it, you make 4 quadrants. And so you have your superpowers or your strengths, you have your kryptonites or your weaknesses, and then on the bottom lower tier, you have your opportunities and your threats, which I like to call opportunities in disguise. So where to start with your superpower power analysis is start with your kryptonites. What do you hate doing? Like, because a lot of the time it's so much easier to figure out what you're good at by knowing what
Being
you're
a
terrible
lawyer.
at.
Things you hate doing, legal work. Just circle it, underline it.
So that one's, I'm glad you brought that up. That one is, so often attorneys are just in the wrong firm. Maybe you really do hate what you're doing, but then get to the nitty gritty. What about what you're doing do you not like? Are there tasks that you can have somebody else do so you can focus on other tasks that you enjoy? Because we need to get curious, because and this is why I'm so passionate about what I do, because many attorneys, we've all lost someone that we care about because they just didn't stay on this earth anymore, because they just didn't want to continue because they didn't see another way out. Or so many of us here, attorneys, that say, I freaking hate being an attorney. Why did I get into this? But at the end of the day, we have so many superpowers as an attorney. And if you don't want to be an attorney anymore, like if you've gone through the steps and you realize that's not really what I want to do, then make the change in your life and figure out what you want to do. Go through the 3 most important questions, do your superpower analysis, and start making steps today, because you're just laying the groundwork for the future.
Well, and it amazes me how many similarities there are between businesses. Like Lane has the most amazing background of experience for doing copywriting for all sorts of different businesses and companies and everything, including the adult film industry, which I always like to drop because I think it's so funny. But anyway, like every business needs marketing. Every business needs copy. Every business needs, videos or ad placement. Every business needs accounting. Every business needs billing. Every business needs HR. And so like there are ways for you to figure out either what part of those things you really love doing for your business and sticking to those, or taking those same skills to something else, because every giant business needs a legal department in some manner.
Yeah, 100%.
So, and I think that brings up the question that I don't know that there is an answer to, but I'm curious to get your take on. How much of that passion and enjoyment do we need out of work, or can we bring into work?
I mean, that's a personal question. It's up to everybody for them to decide what they want for their own lives. Like I can't answer that for you individually. For me personally, I need to enjoy what I'm doing. Like not everything about what I do is going to be something that I actually enjoy, but overall, I love what I do. Like I enjoy it. I have fun. Like I'm kind of like, Peter Pan was one of my favorite movies growing up, and it still is. And I like to see myself like kind of like curious. I love to have fun. I love to play games, not mind games, obviously, but I like to make things fun. Like my Inspired Attorney interviews, it's not something that you tune into and it's just like, but it's a fun interview where both of us are enjoying ourselves, and that translates onto the people that are listening.
Yeah, I'm with you. And the problem is, I don't know, maybe problem is the wrong word. The opportunity is, we'll use your SWOT analysis. I just think that so many people are looking for the right answer as opposed to the steps to find their right answer, especially on the things like this.
So looking for the right answer is kind of, and I'm going to be blunt here, is kind of trying to find an easy way out. There's never the right answer. There is a lot of the time we have that gut response that we know what's right and what's wrong. And then sometimes we talk ourselves out of it. And just because the right answer doesn't fit like a specific mold, it's up to you to decide, do you want to be happy? Do you want to make a life that you love or not? Because I struggled with that for a really long time, where I was looking for legal jobs where like and I've talked about this, like I would apply for jobs and hope to God that I wouldn't get it because I knew I'd be miserable. But those were the right answers. That was like the path that I was supposed to go on.
Yeah, no, I love how you phrase that, and that is, I think, a very true thing that a lot of people will find. Lane, from your perspective, and maybe it'll help lawyers to take it from a less lawyer way. Walk me through a little bit of like what you love about the copywriting and overseeing that stuff. Like what is it that gives you that passion in there?
For me, it's a creative outlet. If I'm doing anything creatively, that's where my passion lies. I mean, I went to undergrad, and I went to art school, and I was majored in advertising and screenwriting, and I did the screenwriting thing, and I really loved storytelling. But then I realized it's kind of like, well, money is kind of important too, and the struggle to be a screenwriter, to make a living, is very difficult. So maybe did I take a sacrifice by doing the advertising route? At first, I thought I did, but then I realized I'm a much better ad copywriter than I am a screenwriter. So it was just trying to figure out and learning as I go. And as long as I'm doing something creatively for my bread and butter work, my life feels fulfilled that way.
So it was like knowing you wanted to do writing, but then finding like the exact writing job that fit everything else.
Exactly. Yep. And I've done, I've worked in-house at, companies, at a, in-house as a copywriter at a tech company. I've worked at a mid-size agency. I freelanced for a very large agency. I'm working now at a boutique agency that's small. And I kind of like that, I've realized I like that kind of like that small kind of community aspect. So, and that's even when, younger folks too, as well, if they're going, applying to colleges, sometimes UCF, I went to a school that only had 2,000 students in it, and it was in, in a big city, but in, UCF, that's a huge school, but I wouldn't feel comfortable at a place like that, but you guys did. So it's just, it has to do with trying to find where you fit in yourself.
So from the lawyer perspective, Sharon, I don't know, I'm assuming you've had this similar conversation with me. Like there are those people like Lane, except instead of the script writing, it's the criminal defense firm or the giant insurance defense firm. And then just that change to still being a lawyer at a different type of law or a different firm makes a huge difference. I mean, have you found that to be the case?
Yeah, 100%. You need to also, because I wanted to touch on what Lane said, you need to also go through certain experiences to figure out what you like and what you don't like. Sometimes you find out that you have superpowers that you didn't even know about, like you did. And you also have to have the courage to explore. Because if you don't have the courage to explore and never step out of your comfort zone, you're never going to be able to make those discoveries. So if it's something, if you're really unhappy and you've done the superpower analysis and you really feel like you should be at a different firm, you can talk to different recruiters out there. Like I know an amazing recruiter. She's a law firm matchmaker, Jennifer Gilman. Please connect with her. She and I'm not trying to plug her, but she's awesome because like you can get a feel from different people in your field by what they're doing, what they have going on in their firm. Too often we are afraid to have these conversations with other people about how life is at their firms, or even with money. People are so afraid to talk about money because we're told from little on that's like a faux pas subject, but like talk to other people about what they're making, because it could be the case that like you're actually being paid well, and maybe you were perhaps previously overpaid and now you're getting paid well, or you're really underpaid and that's part of the problem for you.
And so would that, I'm trying to think about it from the aggravated lawyer perspective. Like you're sitting there with, I love being in court, or I love part of the job, but I hate the billable hours, but I hate the office culture, but I hate the, like that's sort of the struggle that they would have to most benefit from talking to a recruiter.
Well, I mean, we could also have a conversation. I'm actually in the process of releasing a assessment tool. It's the Inspired Attorney Assessment Tool, which basically tells you where you are in business. Like, are you great in a small firm? Are you an entrepreneur? Different things like this. Assessment tools like that are sometimes a little bit of like a hack to get to know yourself on a different level, where you read it and you're like, damn, that is me. How does this tool know me? But things like that are like a great place to start, but definitely having conversations and being willing to acknowledge your feelings and that you're unhappy. Because I know what it's like to be unhappy. And to be honest with you, I didn't acknowledge that I was unhappy. Like one of my family members was like, I get the feeling you're not really happy, because I'm just generally very I don't know if you can tell. I'm pretty positive, and but you know, people are your reflection, so they can also tell you.
You don't realize that you're showing that. You think that you're wearing the mask, that everything's fine, but folks, they know that something's not right.
Yeah, 100%.
And so when it comes from, rediscovering these passions and then turning that into a core component of a life that we love, it sounds like at least the financial and time restraints of a job have to play in pretty soon to this life creation part.
Well, I mean, it's how bad do you want it? You know, sometimes you really have to take the time. Everybody has the same amount of time. We all have 24 hours in a day. And you look at people who have accomplished incredible things in this world, and they have to start somewhere. So if you're working full time or 60 hours a week or whatever it is, you will find, if you really want to make a change in your life, you will carve out the time to start creating the life you want. And it's just step by step. Don't like, you can take it bite by bite, like carve out maybe 15 minutes a day to focus on something for you, and then grow from there.
Yeah, it's interesting. So like I am, there's all the I hate hustle porn. The concept of like work super hard, 24 hours a day, always, always keep grinding, grind, wake up and grind, go to sleep and grind. It makes no sense to me because I'd rather work smart. But anyway, but I am a big, like, I want to watch TV for an hour to an hour and a half at the end of the night so I can shut my brain off because it is going. And it's funny because I found myself needing to do that when I was miserable, and now getting to do that when I am not miserable, because it's not that I feel drained, it's that I know this is what will allow me to sleep really well, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. And I don't know if Lane also wants to add to this, but I think that, this brings in the concept of meditation, which I think is so, so important. And people have all types of definitions for meditation, but my definition for meditation is taking a moment every day to clear your thoughts. Mm-hmm. It could be maybe zoning out on TV, if that's your form of meditation, but you really need to get to a place where you can be one with your thoughts and you can zone out and get perspective about what you have going on in your life. Because if you're constantly grinding, you're never going to be able to see the big picture. You're only going to be able to see what's right in front of you.
Lane, I see you nodding.
I agree completely. I mean, every single night, I mean, it's almost like a ritual. Like I say, like, it's a ritual. Like I love, like, around like 9 o'clock at night, playing guitar. I'm a musician. I've been a musician for almost 30 years, and I'm 33. So like, so it's always been a part of my life. And even though I didn't make a career of it, I still make time for that passion, that love that I have. I still make time for that every day. And it just completely helps me decompress and, just clear my mind. And like I said, even if I have a stressful day, or, something just came my way that I wasn't expecting, I still try to carve out, just even if it's only 5 minutes, 10 minutes of my day, just to have that. And like I said earlier, it's just like, it's good to have those kind of rituals. If, Jordan's rituals, watching TV late at night, it doesn't matter what it is, just to have that kind of ritual. I think it's just so good for your mind and, for your entire well-being, really.
Yeah. I'd love to piggyback on that really quickly, because with these rituals, try it out, try different things. Because if it's not for you, it's not going to stick, but continue to do different things and try different things that help you. And also, if you're having moments where you're feeling overwhelmed and you need to take a step back, the best way to do it, I'm going to say the best way to do it, is through your breath. Take a nice deep breath in and out. And that changes everything. How we are physically acting and how our bodies are affects how everything is. So the breath is a really fast hack to get to a place of serenity quite quickly.
See, and then I want to put the marketing spin on this, because even though that may not be a career, there's a huge benefit to doing those things and sharing those things. Sharing that musical opportunity with other people, sharing it on social media. Weird reference, but Patton Oswalt, the stand-up comedian, wrote this whole article on the death of nerd culture. And he talked about how like when he was growing up as a kid, he had like 3 friends that were into Dungeons and Dragons or whatever it was. And they'd all meet at the local comic book store on Tuesday, when everything dropped, and they'd buy the newest stuff. And now you can go online and there's a billion people that like whatever weird niche thing you are into. There's Wikipedia for Star Wars. God knows what there is for anything. And so like a lot of these little things that are your hobbies, that are your interests, that are your side projects, it's not that you're monetizing them, it's that you're able to connect with a totally different audience through a genuine shared interest that you both enjoy. And then like you might be the only lawyer who can speak Klingon in this group, or whatever the thing's going to be. But it's amazing to me how many people I've talked to that get more cases from they're coaching their kids' football team, being the coach there, than they do from radio ads, than they do from traditional advertising. And I think a lot of that is because they genuinely enjoy those moments being shared with the kids, teaching them those things, enjoying that passion, as opposed to being like, this is the script I was given. I'm an aggressive attorney. We fight harder than everybody else. You need to hire me. I'll make you money. Lemon law sucks.
But also,
that's my 2 cents.
You work with people you like. So in those situations, you're meeting people who have similar interests, and you're more inclined to pass business along to people who have like been verified as a warm lead one, and you want to support their cause.
Totally. I love it. So what is the most helpful action plan? Because I feel like there's a part of this that has to be time management. Like there has to be either you're carving out the time for the passions, or you're putting things in place to not have to work a million hours a week. Like how does time management play into this?
It really comes into play. Like for me personally, I block off time in my calendar to accomplish different tasks, because part of the block is having spaces where you can't be distracted by anything else. We live in a world of distraction, and the moment like an email pings or whatever, you get pulled out of it, and it's going to take you longer to get back to it. So if you're carving out time to find out what your superpowers are, where you want to go in this life, schedule it in, and then make it fun for you. Like give yourself a reward at the end of it, other than the fact that you're working towards living a happier, more fulfilled life. I mean, that's a pretty big reward, but create rewards and create the time for you. And one of the things that I do is for like my meditation time and the time that I dedicate to myself, I do it in the morning before anybody else disturbs me. Because I know a lot of people who try to like set it in, but life kind of happens and then you never get to it.
And I think that by having that control over your morning, you put yourself in such a better headspace for the entire rest of the day, as opposed to hoping that the day is good enough to allow you to get back to that mind space at the end.
I like to look at it like, if I didn't have the time, which I can't even tell you the last time this has happened, but if I didn't have the time to create my day in the morning, it would feel like I was on a roller coaster and I wasn't ready for the ride. It just shot like the Hulk. It just shot off and you weren't ready for it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And from the lawyer perspective, there are a lot more legal emergencies the longer the day goes on than there are at the very beginning of the day. Lane knows, because that's our running joke is there are no real marketing emergencies, but there are definitely legal emergencies. And I guess the caveat to that is there are definitely PR emergencies that will come up, but for the rest of marketing.
That's true. And I've worked in PR too. So yes, there is definitely some PR emergencies that can pop up. Especially when it gets sent to jail or something like that, which I've dealt with. Yes, but other than that, not really. There's not really a lot of marketing emergencies. Things that can wait.
So there are legal emergencies. I mean, it depends on your practice area, but sometimes people are too reactionary, because you can get an email at 9 a.m. and at 11 a.m. it's been solved. So I think that it's knowing your practice area and what true emergencies are. I think that part of it is important, because if you're just constantly reacting, you're never going to be able you're just never going to be able to take control.
So I love that. And that is very true, because you're right. It's going to be different based upon the practice area, but the more that you know, I mean, I guess it's right to say the more that you know what an emergency actually is in your practice area and what an emergency is not, the less you are at the whim of everybody else.
But that's life and learning. Like those emergencies that weren't really emergencies, like were painful for you. So you're going to remember those.
Very true. So as we get towards the end, what else do we need to cover? What else do we skip? What other insider wisdom do you want to make sure you give to our listeners and watchers here?
So if I could leave our listeners with one thing, it would be you're in control of your own happiness. It's your life. You're in control of your happiness in this very moment. You don't know what's going to happen in the next moment. You're creating the rest of your life by the now. So if you're not in a now that makes you happy, start allowing yourself to get creative and think about and curious and think about what really makes you happy. Go through the exercises that we went through today and really start taking control of your own happiness, because it is possible to live a happy, healthier, more fulfilled life. I mean, there are plenty of examples out there. And if you want to reach out to me, the links are in the show notes. And also there's a link to schedule a session with me. We're all in this together, and don't ever think that you're alone.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And it's interesting, so the nationwide average, last I checked, if these numbers are different, somebody stop me. The national average for depression was 10%. In law school, it goes up to 40. As a lawyer, it goes down, and I'm putting that in quotes, to 20%. So it's still twice the average, but half of what it is in law school. And so obviously, I think there are parts about the legal industry that do call out to people who have true mental health issues. But then I think there's also a giant chunk of attorneys that think being miserable is part of the job when it's not. And so I love what you shared there with you are in control of your happiness. All right, so let's go to our next episode. That's going to air, today's Thursday, so that's going to air Monday at 1:30. We will have Megan Robinson back on. So she is going to talk this time about the secrets to balancing management and leadership. So Megan Robinson is a coach for attorneys and other professionals who's going to share with us about the secrets to balancing management and leadership, because we have seen that be a huge push in a lot of what are doing, that need for leadership, mentorship, management for attorneys inside of firms, for attorneys as individuals, etc. But that being said, I'm not going to let y'all go without getting that final nugget of wisdom. And it could be what you just shared before, but I hope you'll have a little bit extra to go into. So when it comes to, if people have been listening to this for the last 40 minutes or so, they remember absolutely nothing that we said, none of the wisdom shared, except what's going to be shared here. What is the biggest takeaway on how people can be the exhibit A of a successful attorney? It can be repeating something you've already said. It can be something totally different. But if they're only going to get one takeaway, what do you hope that is for as many attorneys as possible?
Okay, so I'm going to do this in true lawyer fashion. We're going to have an overview with this stuff.
It depends. Yeah.
It depends. So if you're going to take one thing away, is you create your life by your thoughts, which become your words, which become your actions. So become very aware of and curious about what thoughts are going through your head, because 90% of them are repetitive, how you're living your life. Look at the people that you're surrounding yourself with, because if you're one of those that thinks that it's okay to be miserable, you're likely also hanging out with people who are in the same place as you, and you may need to reevaluate. So that's one of the things. But really what I want people to take away is that you're in control of your own happiness. You're not alone, and you can do it.
I love it. Yeah, the misery loves company is very true. Lane, what about you? What's your biggest takeaway to help attorneys be successful?
I mean, exactly what Sharon said. That I have to say, everything that you said was completely spot on. And just if you're surrounding yourself with negativity, then that's something that you really need to analyze and even decide, even if it's people that you've been friends with for decades, long time, if they are not helping you achieve where you're trying to be, then it might be time to cut those folks out of your life. And it is a difficult situation. If your whole relationship's been based around something that, you know, of misery or something that you hate. I mean, granted, I've been friends with folks that the only thing that we discussed when we're getting together is our mutual that we hated working at a place. You know what I'm saying? There's you have to realize, like, if it's that negativity in your life, and maybe that's what might be what's holding you back to achieve your ultimate goals.
Yeah, and I want to put the fine point on this, because look, as attorneys, I think the one thing that we actually learn in law school is to think critically in every situation. And it is very hard to turn that off, but you need to really draw that line between what is critical thinking, what is devil's advocating, and what is just bitching and moaning. And there's totally a time for bitching and moaning, but it may not be the amount of time that you have dedicated it to. There's certainly that time for critical thinking. There's certainly that time for finding people who will devil's advocate for you, who will argue the other side to make sure that you got the right decision, to make sure you're on the right path. But the complaint fest may not be what you need at this moment.
Can I add to that before we close out?
Of course.
Is that, it's important to have those people in your life that will play devil's advocate for you, because they will help you grow to the next level. There's a difference between someone who's just complaining or someone who's giving you feedback that'll help you grow. And the people you want to surround yourself with are people that are getting to where you want to go. You guys are on the same page, and you guys are encouraging each other to get to the next level, if that's what you want. Otherwise, you don't want to be on a sinking ship.
Yeah, and this is a personal thing and a business thing, or an internal to your business and an internal to you, because you don't want a business full of people that just are yes people. You want that battle. Now, from the business side, you need people to, once the decision is made, fall in line, but you need people to fight that decision tooth and nail until it is, decided upon.
Yeah, it's a good balance. And you're only as great as your weakest link. So that's important to remember. And then also to add, when you're cutting ties or whatever, you don't have to be, excuse my French, you don't have to be an a-hole about it. Like, you can be loving about how you're cutting ties with people. Like, you don't need to ghost people. Realize that we are all human beings. We all have emotions. And just because someone is not where you are, treat them as you would like to be treated.
Yeah, I totally agree. Anything else? Anybody? Going once,
Bueller.
going twice? All right. Well, thank you all for joining us today.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Exhibit A Attorneys. If you're interested in becoming the Exhibit A of Successful Attorney, please check us out at LegalEaseMarketing.com, EASE.